I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, July the 19th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Just a moderate run here on the regular Monday feeder cattle auction, about 4,000 head. They've sold a lot of the grass yearlings around that country over the last couple of weeks here, and we'll just have some kind of mixed calf sales here for most of the balance of this summer here, with the occasional yearling special, and we'll let you know when they're coming through. But you might want to take a look at August the 4th. We've got a special cow and bull sale there at Joplin, and it starts at 4:30 in the afternoon, so mark your calendars for that. Got a Kansas clearance, and a week ago at this time the bulk of your Flint Hill grass yearlings were still for sale. And now they're mostly all gone. They're mostly sold. They haven't been delivered yet. They'll be delivering here over the next couple of weeks. But as I told you in one of our recent visits, you know, it was cool and damp there to start the grazing season in the Flint Hills, and some of those cattle didn't get turned out till a little bit late. So naturally they'll be delivering just a little bit later. So it might be a little bit later delivery than what we normally see going up through the first couple of weeks of August. And then of course you got your guys that own the grass, can kind of do what they want. They'll still be delivering their cattle, you know, all the way till fall. But for most of your Flint Hills yearlings, they're gone, and they traded like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of last week. And I mean, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of loads of them that have turned out there just for 90 days. And those are the best cattle, the best feeding cattle of the whole year. If you've never fed any of them, you can't believe what they'll do. They might gain 4 pounds a day and 3 at night. But just the best feeding cattle you can get off that blue stem there in the Kansas Flint Hills. And there was a mad dash for them. A lot of guys got them. And you know, even USDA Market News on their direct report out of Kansas picked up nearly 38,000 head of cattle that sold direct last week. That compares with just 4,700 the previous report. So that goes to tell you how much bigger it was. But you know, the ones that, and you know, guys know that I like to pick on my former employer there a little bit because I know what goes on and I know what doesn't go on around there. But most of those cattle that are turned in, those directs are turned in by your big corporates. And most of those cattle that are bought out of the Flint Hill, especially the better end of them, are bought by your larger independents. So they're not turning those cattle in. They just decide not to cooperate with that because they don't have to. It's not mandatory that you turn that information in. And in turn, most of your corporates just turn in what they want people to know. They hardly ever turn in any heifers, and they don't hardly ever turn in any calves. Makes me want to think that they just want to turn in index cattle to kind of make the index go which way they want it to, and they don't even want to be bothered by a phone call for the most part. They just fax that information into the office there, and then they do all that out of Oklahoma City now. But it's when you get to looking at it, it's a little bit curious there. But if you look at that report, it noted in there that there was 80% steers and only 20% heifers. Like I said, they don't turn in many heifers, and there were no calves turned in. Of course, you wouldn't have any calves for the most part out of that country, but you thought you might have got 1 or 2 deals of ranch calves somewhere. But call the market $1 to $5 higher against the light test that they had the previous report. And if you look on here, you know, they had 14,600 head of FOB cattle for current delivery. Those are the only ones that are going to go in the index for the most part. And it looks like one deal there with funny money at 150, 114. You would have thought that you would have had a weight range and a price range on there, and I don't know if that's one big corporate that just threw all theirs in a basket and then took out the commissions and all that and then turned it in like that. That's kind of a strange number they turn in there, and that's a big hit on your index, guys, because CME index is still put together with USDA information, and it still settles your CME feeder cattle futures contract there. But you know, the highest on there was in that big string there, or multiple strings at 150, 114. Most of the better cattle that I heard, and most of them were going to your larger independents, were bringing in the low to mid 150s. A lot of them 153 and 154 weighing in the 8s there. Don't have any of those cattle quoted. Some delivered, but I'm talking FOB out there. And those would have been the all blacks, you know, the cattle that come in there together, not necessarily purchased cattle, but from what the guys were telling me, the corporates were mostly getting the mixed bag of cattle with a southeastern origin coming in there, which there's nothing wrong with them. They're going to feed too, but they're not all number ones. They've got them all in the number one hole, and hardly any cattle at all, just one little jag in the mixed 1s and 2s, which are your plainer deals. You know, but nobody ever checks on those cattle. Nobody ever checks and sees if the head counts are right, if the quality's right, if the prices are right, or anything. They just wait for the facts to come in every Friday and then spit it out to everybody. And I don't know if it's the best way to do it there, but they even had 12,200 head on the Oklahoma direct, so a lot of corporate purchasing in that deal too. But everybody's pretty excited about the fall. The further out you went, even on that report I just showed you, the higher the prices were, even if they were just August, you know, first part of August compared to late July, and if they got into later August and September, they got higher. But everybody's very excited about it. We've seen some fall delivery calves like we saw last week on the Western Video Market sale that were really high. And you know, people are looking out there at these futures, and I know the futures were down last week, and that's part of the reason that after a lot of that trade happened, like on Thursday of last week, it just kind of turned sour a little bit. And you know, your board was down pretty hard, feeder cattle on Wednesday, down almost $2 across the different contracts. And so they really dialed those back a little bit. So the bloom is kind of off that market. If you haven't already sold them, you kind of may have missed the boat on the highest prices there. They'll still bring something. Hadn't fall out of bed at all, but $1 to $2 lower than what the best prices were early part of last week, whenever all those cattle were selling all at the same time. And it almost reminds you of the little dab of direct fat cattle trade that we have. Once the dominoes start falling on those flineal deals, they just all go at once. But you look out here on some of your late contracts, going from November on your feeder cattle, November all the way to the end through the back months of the traded contracts, they're all over 160, 170. That's November. That's the lowest. You get all the way out to May, and it's at 164.32. We feel like the cattle are selling crazy high right now. What would you think about averaging 8 weights in the mid 160s up there? Well, if you think that looks pretty good, there's opportunity out there, guys. Of course, you know, the guys are looking at the April fat cattle board almost 140 there, 138.5 to end the week, and it suffered some losses last week too. But if you want to look at some cattle that might make some money, and it's time to check in with my old buddy Ellison Carter Cattle Company down in Santo, Texas, just back west of Weatherford there a little bit. He covers 50 or 60 sales there in Central Texas, and he can flat put them together for you. And I'm going to give you a rundown on some of these prices. These would be loads of cattle going to customers, a delivered price, mostly coming to the Texas Panhandle or up in Oklahoma, but you can kind of adjust from there. But if you can keep these cattle alive, they'll make damn good money. And you guys that know kind of understand what I'm talking about. And if you don't know, don't get in the mix of them, because it'll be more than you can handle. But if you can straighten those cattle up, you know how to handle them, I tell you what, they're sure worth the money, and they will make money, and you can lock them in and make damn good money right now. But let's look at the shippings that he had late week here. He sent me this on Sunday, but Ellison sent me some different quotes on all the different weights of steers and heifers. But how about a load weighing 365, steers and bulls both, be good enough kind, at 173.50? Sounds worth the money. How about some 415 pound steers and bulls at 172.25? That's delivered, guys. 455 pound steers and bulls, good enough at 163.75. Here's a load weight 575 just bring 143.50, but he said they were a little softer and a little fleshier than what he likes for his buyers to get. But I tell you what, you save quite a bit of money there too. And then a load of 770 pound all steers, all yearlings at 145. How about the heifer deal? A load weighed 430, be all blacks and Charolais, sure enough, good kind, go anywhere. 153 and a quarter. Another load 435, they'd be a little plainer at 133.50. 415 pound all black heifer calves at 156. A load weighing 5 and a quarter at 147, all black. Some plainer 570 pound heifers at 127. They don't dollar up very high. Some all black 635 pound heifers at 139.50. This would be a load of them, guys, and they would be alike. You'd like them pretty well. And then a load of 800 pound heifers at 122.75. If you think them kind of cattle will work, you got something to feed them, you think you can keep them alive, and I tell you what, there's money to be made out there. Get a hold of them at Ellison Carter Cattle Company. Go to EllisonCarterCattle.com. Get on there. You can talk to Ellison himself. If he's busy, you can talk to his brother James. If he's busy, you can talk to one of Ellison's boys there, Nathan. He's the cowboy. He's usually out ramrodding things in the pens. Or Walton. He's the guy that can straighten out the office there. All good people. They'll all talk to you. There's not a dumb question. If you're interested, legit interested, give them a call and you can get some cattle worth the money. Let's look at your board for last week. August live cattle futures. Monday was up 60. Tuesday up $1.92. Then it started slacking off a bunch. Wednesday down $0.50. Thursday down 12 cents. Friday down 95. To end the week with August contracts at 120.17. October ended the week at 125.60. August feeder cattle. Monday was down $1.02. Tuesday back up 67 cents. Wednesday was a tough day, and when the orders kind of turned sour there on Wednesday after your feeder cattle board ended the day down 187. Thursday was up 42 cents, and Friday back down another 175. Pretty stiff losses on your August feeder cattle contract, ending the week at 155.62. September ended the week at 158.50. It's all about the corn, guys, and even though the corn's pretty much made, it's tasseling most places there, they still keep jacking with it, and it's very volatile, and you guys know how bad it's been this year. But December new crop corn ended the week at $5.52 a bushel. That's off what they were talking about. They were talking 10, 12, 15 bucks at one point. It's down there kind of, it's higher than what we're used to, but it's, at least something you can work with. How about beans? New crop November, $13.91 3/4 cents to end the week there. And your fat cattle trade through Thursday of last week, just minimal trade. 56,700 head negotiated in your 5-area feeding region. Your live sales of steers and heifers, 117 to 126, mostly 119 to 126. With a weighted average on live steers of 122.80, and that was actually up about 80 cents from the previous week at the same time. Dressed steers and heifers ranged in price from 196 to 201, but it was mostly 196 to 198, and your weighted average on dressed steers was 197.75. That would be some lower. On Friday, we had a little bit more trade in the northern feedlot areas, none in the southern. Iowa had about a little less than 1,000 head confirmed on Friday, from 123 to 126, so right in there about where they were at. Nebraska, 2,300 head on Friday, 121 to 123, the lower end of the range up there on Friday, and 196 dressed. Like I said, Kansas and Texas didn't have anything confirmed on Friday, and Texas only selling 5,900 head for the week there. But they may find a few more to tack on there, but it's not going to be near what the threshold was to call for an active, robust market from NCBA. But NCBA is now hanging their hat on what they're calling the negotiated grid cattle. and saying that that's that's a way to discover the price too. But the negotiated grids, they've just got somebody turning in a whole bunch of them, and like I said, they're not haggling over that base price on the grid. They're basically just market takers like they are when you just schedule the grid cattle in. But over 7,000 negotiated grid cattle turned in Texas there, compared to a year ago when they just had a little over 1,000 head. So they're trying to pull the wool over somebody's eyes, and they're not wanting to kick the triggers anymore to make them do something mandatory, through some type of a legislation or something. They don't want to get behind that. But I tell you what, we got the ball rolling on that already, and we may not even need them. If we could just kind of get something going, I'm not sure why they keep talking about it. I'm tired of talking about it. Let's put one of those bills up or a hybrid up, get it debated on and get it voted on, get it pushed through. Let's get something done here. How about your box beef cutout values? They were big time lower again, and they're falling from those elevated gouging levels. You got your choice cuts, the weighted average for all of last week's trade, 271.81. That was down 11.23 from the weighted average the previous week. And late in the week, your choice cuts were just under 268. So yeah, they've fallen a bunch. Select, your weighted average on all of last week's sales, $254.71 a hundred. That was down 601, and it was lower than that end of the week. Friday afternoon was 251.79. Had a little bit more trade though at the lower levels, and you would expect that, where we've been running in the 400 to 500 pound range, 400 to 500 load range. They had 721 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings there. Your slaughter for the week was pretty decent compared to a year ago. Hard to compare to a week ago because that Monday after the 4th was really technically a holiday. But 653,000 head of cattle were harvested last week. A disappointing Saturday with only 56,000. They've got the shackle space, guys. They can kill them if they'll just do it. And they just back off. Now they're sick because they've lost the big monster margins with these box beef cutout values hanging low. But they can kill 80, 90, 100,000 on a Saturday if they do it, and they only killed 56. But the 653 for last week was 7,000 more than the same week a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle markets in the sale barns. Real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 151.04. That includes all your sale barn cattle, no direct cattle, but pretty darn good. 151.04 based on an 800-pound steer, but that was off $2.31 from the end of the previous week. Why was it off? Well, we had those big specials like we've talked about in Bassett and some of those big, Northern Plains yearling grass specials there that had things really propped up. And then we just had a lot of cattle selling last week off of those big prices, and it just pulled it down a little bit. But early in the week, our feeder cattle in the sale barns were trading, $2 to $5 higher, but they were just kind of catching up from the late sales the previous week. By the time we got to the end of this past week, it had turned $2 to $3 lower late. Like I said, after we had Wednesday's feeder cattle board closing down nearly $2. But still selling the hell out of cattle late in the week. I want to give you some quotes. How about Winter Livestock, Winter, South Dakota? This was in their sale on Friday there, and 4 loads of heavy 9-weight steers in there, selling from 149.25 to 153.75. This one load of stick out 823-pound steers had to have been program cattle at 163. Bluegrass stockyards in Richmond, Kentucky, they can sell them out there too. And look at all the load lots and bigger they had out in Richmond, Kentucky. That sits just about two blocks off the square there in Richmond. But 900 to 1,025-pound steers, they get them big up there. They're adding value by retaining those cattle and making yearlings out of them. Sell from 132.80 up to 145, and then right in the middle you see 50 head, 607-pound steers. Be good to turn out probably at 169.75. But the best quote that I saw anywhere for where it's at in a sale barn there, Burwell Livestock Market on the Yellow Brick Road, Burwell, Nebraska. Zach Tran top quote for the day, 147 head of 841 pound steers bring 156.75. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.